Welcome back to the Upside Sports Network. My name is Michael. Appreciate you guys joining us. Big news for the New York Yankees. They finally addressed their starting rotation. We've been telling you that for the better part of a year. They needed to improve that starting rotation, and this is certainly a big step in that direction. They have signed Carlos Rodon to a 6-year, $162 million contract. Full no-trade clause, no opt-outs as well. Just a great all-around contract for the New York Yankees. A little bit lower than the AAV Rodon was looking for, a little bit less as far as guaranteed years as well. But they were able to get their guy. We'll get into the reasons why. But for the New York Yankees, they absolutely had to improve that starting rotation. This is a huge deal for them. He slots in as their number 2 in front of Cortez, I believe. Gives them a very solid 1, 2, 3 in that rotation. Now, they still need to add some back-of-the-rotation options, some guys that they can put in the long role in the bullpen that can give them proven innings at the major league level and not just stopgap options like they had last year. That would really help make that starting rotation even better, but they should have no trouble doing that. They should be able to find some bargain basement deals to fill out the rest of that rotation and get some long men out in that bullpen. They still have some work to do out there in the bullpen. They're still looking for a contact hitting outfielder. There's still some room for improvement as possibly bringing in a guy like Pablo Lopez from the Miami Marlins via trade. They need to unclog that middle infield situation as well, but this is the biggest piece outside of Aaron Judge that the Yankees could have done this offseason, and they get it done. Overall, just a great job by Brian Cashman, Hal Steinbrenner. Hats off to you. There was a lot of consternation around the New York Yankees fan base about whether or not they'd be able to bring back Aaron Judge. They thought for a moment they had lost him after John Heyman tweeted out that he was going to San Francisco. Basically put everybody's heart into their throats anyway in New York. And even saw Aaron Boone have that reaction pretty much on camera on MLB Network about an hour later. He still hadn't recovered from that. But now they have Aaron Judge under contract for 9 years. Now they've got that starting rotation good to go for at least the next 6. And they're ready to get going. And that division looks very competitive now, right at the top of the division. The Rays, the Blue Jays, and the Yankees all should be vying for the division crown. I think the Orioles are still a year away from competing from the best in that division. They still need to add some significant pieces of that rotation and to that lineup and let their young guys develop. But there is no question that the Orioles will be around the playoff picture as far as the wild card. But the Yankees, Just a great job bringing in Carlos Rodon. Now, what exactly does he bring to the table? A 2.88 ERA last year. If he had played in front of any better of a defense last year, he would have been a significantly better pitcher. Pitched to a 2.25 fielding independent pitching. Tells you just how bad that San Francisco Giants defense really was. San Francisco, of course, has made some upgrades out there, but he didn't want to stick around in San Francisco. The Minnesota Twins were in there as well. A little bit surprised they didn't pony up the money, but I'm wondering if Rodon ultimately took less from the Yankees than, say, other offers that were on the table. We have yet to hear any of the big offers that were out there. I'm sure there are a few of them, but there was still some stiff competition. There was the St. Louis Cardinals that were interested in bringing him in. The Mets at one point had checked in on him. The Rangers were interested in bringing him in at one point. We'll see how serious their conversations really were with him down the stretch. But the Yankees ultimately were the team that were able to get him signed. The Dodgers at one point had checked in on him, but I'm not sure how serious their threat was to the Yankees to be able to pry him away from them. But the Yankees ultimately get their guy. They have a much better rotation today, even if they don't add other pieces of that rotation. Last offseason, we saw that they added a few pieces here and there at the trade deadline, bringing in Frankie Montas and then sending away Jordan Montgomery, bringing in one good starter and then sending away another one who had immediate success there with the St. Louis Cardinals. They still needed to add some depth to that rotation. This should give them some insurance if they're unable to have any proven depth at the back end. But I still think they should be able to add at least one decent starter at the back end of that rotation. But this really does lengthen out that rotation for them. Great job, Yankees. Welcome in, Bryce. Let's go Yankees. 6 at 162. It is a good deal. Need some Rangers moves. We'll get into that in just a moment. I think Rodon just wanted to be Yankee. I agree. $27 million AAV is still right about what we expected around the beginning of the offseason anyway. Maybe around the trade deadline about what we thought he might get, between $25 and $28 million. Then as we saw the big numbers coming out for starting pitching, we thought, well, maybe he gets up to the $30+ million range and gets that fully guaranteed 7th year. Maybe a team goes out there and says, hey, we'll give you the big dollar figure and maybe give you 8 years but lower the AAV. We'll see if the collective bargaining agreement is adjusted for all the big long-term deals that teams are giving out right now, because it clearly seems that teams are trying to find a way around the CBT and the luxury tax threshold anyway by going longer deals and being able to lower that tax number, lower the average annual value to decrease the amount they pay on taxes anyway. But overall, great deal for the Yankees. They didn't have to do any of that. They were able to get him at their number for their terms. So overall, just a great contract all around. He does give you solid innings. He does have durability concerns. He's only pitched over 160 innings twice, once in 2018, I believe, and once last year. So we'll see how successful he remains going forward. Yankees and Giants versus opening day. That's already going to be an interesting scene just because of the Aaron Judge saga. Now you get the Carlos Rodon factored in there as well. So maybe they'll have Carlos Rodon going in Game 2 of that series as well. So the Yankees certainly spending this offseason, bringing in Anthony Rizzo to begin their offseason, tinkering a little bit here and there, bringing in IKF anyway, and then ultimately getting their big fish in Aaron Judge, now adding that rotation. I still expect them to spend on the back end of that bullpen, maybe bringing back an injury flag guy like Zach Britton, see if they can get anything out of him, but they still need to add some pieces back there. The Mets have tried to dominate the front page news out there in New York, and this is a great signing for the Yankees just to say, hey, hold on now. We're still the Yankees. We're the cream of this city anyway, and we will rise to the top. And so we'll see if they ultimately do. But ultimately, just a great signing for the Yankees. Let us know what you think. I was expecting somewhere around 7 years. I thought another team would be out there with a higher offer, a significantly higher offer than what the Yankees ultimately got him for, but still not exactly a deal to sneeze at. I mean, it's $27 million in average annual value for a pitcher who's only pitched 2 seasons over 160 innings. The last 2 seasons have been a very high quality. The previous 2 years before that had an ERA over 5 and an ERA over 8. But again, that was a very short sample size in both of those years. Those numbers would have come back down to earth. But they are able to capitalize on the market kind of all the rest of the starting pitchers had already been taken off the market. Even the C and D level free agents are out there, were being picked up. And so teams are filling their rotations, as there wasn't really that many chairs left anyway for Carlos Rodon to really go into. The Rangers had already spent their money, went ahead and signed Andrew Heaney to that 2-year, $25 million deal, instead of going ahead and offering another $15 million per year to Carlos Rodon over an extended period of time. They decided to go a little bit cheaper on another starting pitching addition. The Mets had already brought in Kodai Senga and Justin Verlander and Jose Quintana. I still believe the Twins are going to make some type of addition to that starting rotation. They want a frontline starting pitcher. That's why there was reports anyway that they had put out Luis Arraez on the block to be able to bring in an ace-level starting pitcher. They're still interested in bringing in Dansby Swanson, so maybe that's the move for the Minnesota Twins. The Dodgers still haven't done anything major. They did bring in Noah Syndergaard. We will have a video coming out about that tomorrow morning for you guys. I saw your comment. I'm not sure. I can't remember the name. I want to say it was Daniel. You had commented on one of our videos that you wanted to see a Noah Syndergaard video. We will have that coming out for you tomorrow. We were going to do it tonight, but we got the Carlos Rodon news, and, well, that kind of superseded everything. You were asleep? Yeah. But we really appreciate you guys joining us. In case you guys are new here to the Upside, we cover Major League Baseball, the NBA, the NFL, and the NHL. Try to keep you guys updated on as much as we can. Going to try to give you a lot more in-depth coverage. That's why you can check out the video from earlier today about Carlos Rodon, about how the Yankees might have been stepping away or balking at the asking price. And certainly they didn't give up what Carlos Rodon was wanting, but they ultimately land the fish that they absolutely had to have. If you guys watched that video earlier today, I told you guys the Yankees have to improve that starting rotation. Rodon is the only free agent left on the table who could really make a difference in that starting rotation. Sure, there's Nate Eovaldi out there, and they may still bring him in, but Eovaldi versus Rodon, give me Rodon 50,000 times a week over Eovaldi. But we'll see where Eovaldi ends up going. Maybe he'll go to the Orioles. Seems like the Orioles are looking to bring in not just Kyle Gibson, who they already signed, but possibly Michael Wacha. But we'll see how things go. I think that the Yankees need to address their bullpen next. They could go for an outfielder, but they have like 5 of them already on the active roster. Their roster is a little bit cluttered. We'll see if they do any roster cleanup as far as multiple positions that have multiple pieces already locked in as a one position only type of a player. Outfield is one of them with Hicks, Stanton, etc. Of course, they have the DH spot available. But and then, of course, in the middle infield, they've got like 5 or 6 middle infielders that they can use there at one point or another. A lot of those guys are young, but I imagine they want to unclog that spot a little bit. But the Yankees are going to change a little bit of how their team looks over the next month or so. So kind of keep your eyes peeled for that. In case you guys are new here to the Upside, we've been doing a lot of daily updates for you guys about Major League Baseball, trying to keep you updated on what's going around the Major League Baseball's hot stove season. Now with the winter meetings in the books and almost every single one of the top-end free agents off the board, don't get me wrong, there's still a couple out there. Nate Eovaldi is still a very good pitcher, but not nearly at the level of Senga and Verlander and DeGrom and Rodon. But you're still going to see a few pieces here and there. We will still keep you updated, but as far as the dailies, we're going to shift those to a weekly format for you guys. We'll be doing those for you guys on Monday nights to update you guys on what's going around the world of baseball. We will instead be doing some more live games for you guys, try to get into the basketball season and hockey season, and of course wrap up the NFL season, try to bring you some live games. That way you guys can join us and watch a game together. And we're also going to bring you a lot more in-depth coverage onto each one of these transactions. For instance, the Carlos Rodon video that we did and the Carlos Correa video that we posted earlier today, you'll see a lot more content like that. So if you guys want to see a lot more coverage as far as, about your team, what the lineup looks like, what the rotation option, what the next step is going to be for your team, make sure you hit that like and subscribe. The reason why I named this the Upside Sports Network is because I want to focus on what's next in the sports storyline. So now that the Yankees have gotten their first domino down as far as Aaron Judge, then their second one in Carlos Rodon, and of course Anthony Rizzo was the first one even before that. But what's the next step for them? What are they going to do next? Left field is a priority for them. Bullpen is going to be a priority, and back into the rotation. And of course, unclogging that roster a little bit and giving them some flexibility going forward. That's going to be the priorities for the Yankees. Now, for the Giants who lose the Carlos Rodon, they've already made their moves. They brought in Ross Stripling, Sean Manaea to fill out that rotation. They brought in Haniger in the outfield, gave the qualifying offer to Jock Peterson, brought in Carlos Correa, but they still have work to do. But it sounds like they may save most of their powder for next offseason when free agency is going to be big as well. There's not going to be quite as deep as a pitching class as there was this year as far as top-end talent, but there might be some more middling guys out there next year. We'll see who ends up getting the job done in San Francisco. $522 million spent from the Yankees this offseason. Yes, that is quite a bit. Rangers have spent quite a bit. The Mets have spent quite a bit so far this offseason. Left field is next. I think they should add at least one outfielder, more of a contact hitter. But in order to do that, they need to send out a contract or two in that outfield already. I would like to see Harrison Bader get more playing time in the outfield as well. You need your Jets to make the playoffs? Well, They got a tough one against the Lions. And Mike White, I know he's, 1-2 as a starter so far this year for you. You have a guy who you can't count on who's lost the team, and Zach Wilson as the guy who got benched anyway a couple weeks ago. Joe Flacco's all but retired. He's more of a coach more than anything else at this point. I don't know who you really turn to if Mike White is unable to go, which he might not be able to. But your Jets have already lost Breece Hall. I think your Jets are a lot better than anybody expected this year. They did all this, even though they did not bring in the big fish in the offseason in Tyreek Hill. The reason why they didn't, because Tyreek Hill ultimately decided to go to Miami because of the state taxes. But the Jets are certainly overperforming this year, and maybe they're coming back down to earth a little bit. Once they get Breece Hall back next year, they should be in the wild card hunt every single year going forward, as long as they solve that quarterback situation. Whether they go the free agent route after the season, whether they find lightning in a bottle with Mike White down the stretch, whether they go in the draft and get another quarterback, they just need to solve that quarterback spot, and that defense is ready to go. Sauce Gardner is fantastic. Should probably be the defensive rookie of the year in my opinion. His coverage abilities are just off the chart. But I agree, the Jets certainly have a bright future at the very least, and have an outside chance of still making the playoffs, even with their quarterback situation being as horrible as it's been. But thank you guys for joining us here tonight. Had a little bit other news around the world of baseball anyway. Adam Frazier, one of the top second basemen on the market this year, signed a one-year deal with the Baltimore Orioles. And then the New York Mets brought in a catcher. We thought they'd bring in one catcher. They did, Omar Narvaez. Now the Orioles, their one-year contract with Frazier was an $8 million deal. Good contract for him. Had certainly a subpar year for by Adam Frazier's numbers anyway. Last year with the Mariners, he's had a little bit of a tumultuous year and a half though with the trade going from the Pirates to the Padres and then the Padres to the Mariners. Just hasn't worked out for Adam Frazier. If he gets back to the Adam Frazier we saw with the Pittsburgh Pirates, the Orioles could really have something. Of course, they have some really good young talent coming at the shortstop spot. They could obviously flex one of those pieces that they have coming to second base. So if Adam Frazier doesn't work out, they have insurance there, and this is a good stopgap option for the Orioles to kind of stay competitive in that division and possibly contend for a wild card. And if Adam Frazier plays really well, maybe he gets a qualifying offer at the end of the year if he plays, back to his normal level. But great deal here for the Baltimore Orioles, 1 year, $8 million. Now, of course, we mentioned the Omar Narvaez thing. That was the catcher going to the New York Mets. It's a 2-year, $15 million guarantee with an option of $8 million. Excuse me, I thought it just said an option. No, excuse me, it's an opt-out. 2 years, $15 million guarantee with an opt-out at the end of next season. 31-year-old catcher. Spent some time with Milwaukee last year. They didn't really have a bat-first catcher in New York anyway, and this gives them a bat-first option. A little bit surprised that they didn't go after one of the top catchers out there like a Wilson Contreras, Christian Vasquez, a Sean Murphy, a Danny Jansen. But instead they go a little bit cheaper here and go with Omar Narvaez. But they certainly needed to upgrade their offense behind the plate. Edward, Rangers need to re-sign Matt Moore and maybe get a closer too along with a left fielder. I think that's the off-season to-do list now for the Rangers. Now with Rodon off the board, they don't have to worry about squirreling away a little bit here and there just to bring in Carlos Rodon if they had an outside chance of bringing him in. Now they can go ahead and bring in a left fielder. I think they will do that via trade. If I had to guess, I'd say one of the younger Arizona Diamondbacks left fielders could go there. If they don't go the trade route, the only one I see on the free agent market right now that could go there to Texas, I'm not buying the Michael Conforto thing. I just don't see it. The injury issues are far too big, and I think the Mariners are ultimately going to get him anyway. Andrew Benintendi is another one that people have linked to the Texas Rangers. I'm not buying that either. While he is a good contact hitter, he would bring that element to it and is a left-handed hitter. I just don't see him being a fit in Texas either. For me, though, the only one out there for me is Michael Brantley, professional hitter. Everybody says that about Michael Brantley, but for me, he would be exactly what the Rangers need. High on base guy, can help bring some tutelage to these other big contracts that they already have, as far as avoiding chasing pitches, teaching the young guys how to look for their pitch in the strike zone and drive the pitch when they get it, laying off those tough spinning pitches, etc. That would be invaluable for a good Rangers roster with a lot of young talent in it that needs to make sure it doesn't start to fall back like it has in the past. Michael Brantley would be a good person to bring in, maybe play 60 games and left and DH the rest of the time. Maybe a Bubba Thompson, another 60 games out there as kind of a speed guy out there. Or maybe they bring in another guy on the free agent market. Another option that they could bring in, I've floated this idea before, is say the Brewers really want to save some money on Christian Yelich to be able to, sign the 3 free agents that they have in 2024. In order to do that, they're going to have to offload a lot of that contract of Christian Yelich. Maybe the Rangers take advantage of that and get the Brewers to eat, say, $60 million of that deal. That's roughly $12 million each year of the remaining 5 years of that deal. They would be saving roughly $16 million per year. That's enough to be able to re-sign maybe one of those pieces like a Woodruff and maybe have a little extra left over to sign one more of those guys. But it's going to cost them a pretty penny to offload that much of that contract, even if they ate $60 million of it, which again could work to the advantage of the Rangers. Get a good left fielder who's a high on-base percentage guy, has power has dropped off the planet anyway over the last couple of years. If he gets back any of that power over the next 5 years of that deal, the Rangers could really have something going for them in left field. But the Rangers certainly need to improve that left field spot. Now, as far as Matt Moore, very underrated left-handed pitcher last year out of the bullpen. I don't believe he gave up a home run all year long, was reliable for that bullpen. Bochy and Maddox are going to use that bullpen much better than Chris Woodward and the Rangers staff, Rangers organization did last year. And I think a piece like that would be invaluable for them to use. Now, I do think they need to add a closer. I don't think they have an in-house option that they can point to and say, yep, you're the guy. They have several guys who have done it before, but nobody I think they can count on opening day. And so I'm thinking maybe they go the trade route for maybe a Liam Hendricks or a David Bednar from the Pirates. They could go the free agent route and Taylor Rogers, who gave up like 10 blown saves last year. I'm not sure if you want to go that route. The other guys on the market, Aroldis Chapman, I'm not sure you count on him as a closer, especially considering how erratic and how much of a head case he was last year for the Yankees. And then the last option would be Zach Britton. He's coming off of injury. I'm not sure if he'll even be ready for opening day, but if he gets back to anywhere near where he was last year, you're talking about one of the most lights-out, dominant relief pitchers in the game. The only other relief pitcher out there right now is Adam Ottavino, and he's not a closer. They could use some middle relief guys, but they have tons of those type of pitchers already on their roster. They need a closer. But to answer your question, Edward, that's what I think they should end up doing. Sub-Zero, welcome in. Will the Yankees get Brian Reynolds? That could be the piece that they go after. I've heard him being connected to a bunch of different teams out there. I'm still not sure we'll end up seeing him traded before the season at this point. We are going to see a lot more trades now that all the top free agents are off the board, so keep your eyes peeled. But Brian Reynolds is not going to be cheap, and they're going to ask for a lot. They're asking for MLB-ready talent. They're not just going to take your A-level prospect and hope and wish upon a star for him. The Pirates are got a class of prospects that's just about ready to hit the major leagues, and they're ready for the next title contention window. Brian Reynolds wants out of there. They don't exactly want him, poisoning the well, so to speak, if you will. But I think they could bring in, some AAA arms or some, prospects that have already made it to the major leagues and haven't necessarily hit. So, for instance, say like the Texas Rangers, they have Ezekiel Duran and Josh Smith that fit that profile. For the Yankees, maybe they go Peraza, something like that. I don't think it'll cost Volpe, but I think Peraza might be a good place to start and then fill out the rest of the trade from there. But Brian Reynolds would be a good get for the Yankees. And then, put him in center or in left, wherever you desire. And good contact hitter. Has some pop to that bat as well. Under control for 2 more years. So cost control, important thing for the Yankees as they try to keep that luxury tax bill as low as they possibly can. But maybe the Yankees end up with him. I've heard him being connected to the Rangers. Again, I'm not sure because of how high his cost is going to be. Even if you put Smith and Duran and Dunning in the deal, I think you're close to some type of a trade there, but I think it'd still cost just a hair more, and I'm not sure the Rangers would be willing to do that for a left fielder. Now, if we're talking about a cost-controlled starting pitcher, that's a different question. I think the Rangers right now are all about starting pitching. If you're willing to offer them, a number 1 or 2 type starting pitcher, then I think they'll talk to you any type of trade right now. But we'll see how things go. Who will the Yankees get for left field since Benintendi wants 5 years? Who else can they get for left field? On the free agent market, there's not a lot out there. I mean, the trade market, maybe they go the Diamondbacks route. I heard the Boston Red Sox have kicked the tires on the Diamondbacks guys as well. The Milwaukee Brewers have 2 left fielders in Yelich and Winker. Maybe they bring in Winker, something like that. I don't think they'd go that route, but you're looking at situations where somebody might be available via trade. And maybe they flex Winker over to right field since Hunter Renfroe's no longer there. But if you're looking at teams that could trade a left fielder, you're looking for redundancies in the lineup. Where, like the Arizona Diamondbacks have a plethora of outfielders that they want to get time for in the major leagues. They need to trade at least one of those to get some more playing time in there. They did bring in Kyle Lewis to add to that outfield mix. They're looking to spin off one of those left-handed hitting outfielders and bring in a right-handed power bat. So we'll see, where they end up going there. The Red Sox, of course, have some power bats that haven't really latched on at the major league level. Maybe that's a match for the Red Sox Nation. I heard some rumors today that the Red Sox are actually kicking the tires on the idea of bringing in Dansby Swanson. I have one thing to say about that, and if you're kicking the tires on Dansby Swanson and you gave the money to Yoshida, why didn't you just spend the money on the much better player in Xander Bogaerts instead of giving it to Yoshida? Sure, Yoshida's contract is 5 years, $90 million, but that's a significant overpay for what the market was ultimately offering him out there. We heard lots of offers in the range of $45 million, not 90, and the Red Sox basically blew everybody else out of the water. And if they had saved that money, used it towards Xander Bogaerts, I think they'd have kept that fan base intact, and I think that they'd have a much better chance of bringing back Rafael Devers next year. But to answer your question, who will the Yankees get for left field? I'm not sure their answer is going to come on the free agent market unless it's Andrew Benintendi. I don't really see them going after Michael Conforto. They need consistent performance in there, and they already have a lot of guys already in there. Welcome in, Ramon. Appreciate you. Welcome back. One thing we haven't touched on yet was the Dodgers bringing in their first big free agent of the offseason so far, Noah Syndergaard, on a one-year deal. That video we will have coming out for you guys tomorrow around 11 o'clock, so keep your eyes peeled for that one. But he's going to make $13 million on a one-year deal with $1.5 million available in incentives. This is a perfect fit for the LA Dodgers. Let me just start right there. The LA Dodgers find ways to get the most out of their starting pitchers. Look at last year. Case in point, Andrew Heaney goes there, had struggled in previous years with, one issue or another, goes to Los Angeles, and sure, he got injured, only pitched 72 innings, but he was absolutely dominant in those 72 innings. 3.12 ERA, strikeout numbers were through the roof. The Rangers saw something that had changed in Andrew Heaney's approach to pitching, and that's why he got a 2-year, $25 million deal anyway, with an opt-out after the first year, to where if those numbers are repeatable anyway in Texas, then he could really go out there and get a $20+ million deal next year. Same thing for Tyler Anderson. Had 4.5 career ERA before that in 5 years. Then goes to the Dodgers anyway and pitches to a 2.59 ERA with 160 plus innings pitched anyway. Got a 3-year, $39 million contract from the LA Angels. The Dodgers apparently have some type of magic that's working there. Maybe it'll rub off on Noah Syndergaard. And if he gets back to being the high-end piece that we all thought he was going to be back when he was traded from the Blue Jays to the Mets and then coming up with the Mets along with Jacob deGrom, the Dodgers could really have something in that starting rotation. But so far so good for the LA Dodgers. They save a lot of their powder available for next season to go after Shohei Ohtani. This still does not bring them above the tax. I think this is to reset their tax threshold by making sure they stay under that luxury tax threshold so that they can go well above it next year. So keep your eyes peeled there. Got a spammer there. We'll get it taken care of for you in just a moment, guys. Now the Mets with 4 catchers, they're going to try to fix that a little bit. I think they're going to move some of those catchers. I think they're going to either move McCann if they can save some money. Maybe they spend a prospect off on it. But they're not going to carry 4 catchers into the season. But there is an argument to be had that they could carry 3 catchers into the year. Did you see the Omar Narvaez signs with the Mets 2 years, 15? I did. Do anyone know what team Gregory Polanco is on? Outfielder, left-handed bat? I'm not sure he's still in the league, honestly. Yeah, he wasn't in the league last year. Yeah, his last year, his last 2 years in the league, he got a 153 batting average and a 208 batting average. Maybe he's the next version of Yasiel Puig trying to sell himself at the winter meetings and nobody takes a flyer on him. But maybe a minor league team or a minor league offer is out there for him. But He wasn't on a major league roster last year. Did you watch the NBA? Bucks just got blown out by the Grizz with the Greek Freak and Chris Middleton. Grizz 142 to 101. Ouch. Eee. You're a Thunder fan. Those are few and far between, my friend. I'm in Texas, and closest I get to a Thunder fan is the only time I ever pass through Oklahoma City. I might see a Thunder jersey or two. They're a scarce breed. But I've been watching a little bit of basketball, not a whole lot. Watched some hockey today before I got on here. Great game out of Dallas and Washington. 2-1 was the final score. Ovechkin was trying to try Gordie Howe, I want to say, or not Gordie Howe. It was somebody at 801 goals. I can't remember the name off the top of my head. I just tuned into it for the last final period of the game, excuse me. But Jake Ottinger back in his form, back in that playoff series form that he had last year. Nice to see that he's back and healthy now. Go Padres. Welcome back, Mark. Padres still need pitching. I agree. I think they could use a back-end starter at this point. There's nobody else out there on the free agent market aside from maybe Eovaldi who could really make a move for them. As far as the bullpen, maybe they add a piece out there. I could see them bringing in a multi-utility player like a Jurickson Profar. Somebody who can play a little bit of outfield and infield. Do you see McCann goes where in a trade? I think they do need to move James McCann just because he's not a productive hitter for them. They're bringing in Omar Narvaez to fill a hole for them. Howe, thank you. I thought it was Gordie Howe, but I want to say he was well above 801. I don't know why, but anyway. He stayed goalless after getting the hat trick the other night. But I could see James McCann pretty much going any number of places. They just need to unclog that catching situation just a little bit. You're a Caps fan? Okay. Welcome back, Clay. Welcome back, Robert. San Francisco Giants will be the most dangerous team in baseball. I don't know if you saw my eyes there. I'm not sure I believe you. The reason being is that lineup leaves a lot to be desired. And sure, they could add some more pieces, and sure, they could have, play well above their heads. But if you're expecting anywhere near a 2021 result as far as that team, don't count on it. As far as Mark, I know you want to pass on Profar just for the too much money thing, but for me, I mean, he turned down a contract where he's making $6 million a year. It's not like he's looking for a $30 million contract. I think ultimately he'll sign somewhere in the neighborhood of $9 to $12 million contract per year. That's basically what Nick Martinez did. He said, hey, I pitched really well. I had $6 million AAV. Now I'm going to bump that up and re-sign back with the Padres. Something like that is what I see happening here for Profar. And remember, he has big ties with A.J. Preller back when he was back when he was with the Texas Rangers organization, coming up as the number one prospect in the sport. Now, whether or not you believe the Rangers front office was lying to the scouts out there that he was really as highly touted as he was, he still came in and made an immediate impact on the Rangers, and then didn't get playing time every single day, and that really messed with his value going forward. And the steam kind of came out of that balloon quickly. Therefore, he was traded to the Oakland A's. The Padres jumped on that situation and were able to bring him in. But I think they're going to be able to bring in Profar at a contract that's a raise for Profar, but not as much as he's looking for on the open market. That Giant lineup is vastly improved with Haniger and Correa, but yeah, you're talking about a 2 and 3 in your lineup. And then what's your 6, 7, 8, 9 in that lineup? I mean, you're talking Jock Peterson's probably going to be your 4. Brendan Crawford's going to be in there, of course. Outside of that, I really don't see much outside of Yaz, who's got some major league experience on that roster. Sure, they could bring in a first baseman at some point, a DH here or there, but that lineup still is looking not so great. Giant lineup is improved, but they finished 30 games back of the Dodgers last year, and the rest of their team is old, likely will be worse. Yes, but remember they also got rid of Brandon Belt. He is a free agent right now. Evan Longoria also a free agent right now. Crawford's entering the final year of his deal. Peterson is on the end of his deal because it's a qualifying offer. They have J.D. Davis, but again, he doesn't really move the needle for me at all. But you're gonna have to catch lightning in a bottle if you're hoping to win the wild card. You don't have a prayer at the division. I'll put it that way. But Correa is a great building piece. If you guys watched the video I posted around 1 o'clock today, kind of explained what I think the Giants are trying to do with this Correa move. One, appease their fans. Of course, they're trying to improve their team, but they didn't bring in Aaron Judge. Fan base was a little upset about that because they really thought they had him and that they were going to add even more on top of Judge. They were expecting Judge and possibly Correa and other pieces. Sure, they improved that rotation with Manaea and Stripling, so that rotation should still be solvent, I'll put it that way. Not exactly as high end as they did last year with Rodon, but they've got good performers with Stripling and Manaea coming in. But that Giants lineup still leaves so much to be desired, and I just think their top end performance isn't going to be able to catch the Dodgers or the Padres in that division. At best, I think you're looking third in that division, while the Diamondbacks are showing some improvement, and if they start to click, maybe the Diamondbacks start to catch you. I think the Rockies are still quite a ways away from contention, even though they try to tell us year after year that they're there, that the starting pitching is starting to come around. They're starting to have some improvements from their some of their younger guys. Chris Bryant was injured, only played 40 games, and sure, I just don't think they're going to be anywhere near contention. I don't think they're going to be anywhere near sniffing a wild card spot after July. Zach Houston, who is that? Yankees signed him to a minor league deal. I did not see that one. Unfortunately, Thursdays are my long day at work, so I did not see that signing. Hey, bro, how many relievers you see with the Mets? 7 or 9? I think as far as relievers, I think the Mets still need to add probably 3 relievers to that bullpen. They've done a nice job. I still think that Adam Ottavino is going to be one of those 3 relievers, 2 or 3 relievers that they'll bring in. And then I still think they need to bring in at least one more long guy. Wilmer Flores is a clutch hitter. Okay. I'll put it this way. If you're counting on Wilmer Flores to save your season, it's not enough. If you're counting on J.D. Davis to save your season, it's not enough. If you're counting on Jock Peterson to be your cleanup hitter, it's not enough. That's all I'm going to say. They're an improved team. Don't get me wrong, Robert. They're improved. They got a much better player on their roster now with Carlos Correa. That team is probably an 8 wins better team anyway than with Carlos Correa on their roster than without. But they lost a lot of older veterans on that roster, so Correa's going to make up a lot of that already, and then he's going to help build off of what they did last year. I think they still finish a little bit better than what they did last year because of what they've done. Their rotation is a little bit worse because they don't have Rodon at the top, and so they're in the middle. And so when they make their pitch to free agents next year, this is the part of the video I wanted you guys to pay attention to that I made earlier. They didn't want to go into free agency next year and say, hey, we finished as the bridesmaid to Judge. We finished as the bridesmaid to Correa. We finished as the bridesmaid to Rodon. We didn't get any of these top-end pieces. However, we have a whole bunch of money. Where have we heard that pitch before? Oh, yeah, the Texas Rangers for a couple years. Then they finally had to overpay, get one guy in Marcus Semien. Then they got the ball rolling. This is kind of the beginning of that for the San Francisco Giants. They brought in Mitch Haniger before Aaron Judge. I think part of the reason being that Mitch Haniger signed that deal at that point was that he thought he was entering into a great situation with possibility of Judge. He does still get Correa, and it still could be a great situation. The Giants are a winning franchise, don't get me wrong, but I think they're at least a year away from being serious about contending for a wild card spot, maybe the division, depending on how the pieces fall next free agency. But they're going to have plenty of money to spend in the next offseason period. We'll see who they ultimately end up signing, but they have a lot of question marks that they need to answer this season, see if those young guys prove themselves, and see what they need to fill as far as holes in that lineup and holes in that rotation going into next winter. But that team is not necessarily a division winner. I don't think they're necessarily a wild card team, but they are certainly better, at least in the lineup, than they were last year. Rotation, they downgraded a little bit. Joey Bart, I think that ship has sailed on you, buddy. I mean, he's an older catcher now at this point. He doesn't necessarily have the impact bat that we all thought he was going to have. Let me just pull up his numbers so you guys, that way I can give you some idea. Alrighty. Joey Bart. Last year played in 97 games, .215 batting average, not bad for a catcher, but it's not exactly, top 5 catcher in the league potential either. His on-base percentage, .296, much better. than the batting average. Tells you he did walk a fair amount. Strikeouts were through the roof, though, at 112 strikeouts. So as far as his slug was only 364, his OPS was 660. Not exactly world-beating stuff coming from your catcher spot. So maybe Joey Bart captures some of that potential he once had, but he's not necessarily the piece that everybody thought he was going to be as the heir apparent to Buster Posey. I think this could be the year. Well, there was more than a little talk anyway that this could have been a replacement year for Joey Bart. Maybe finding somebody who could take some of the starts away from him. Maybe even find a flat-out replacement for him. I think next year, if he has another year like this, there will be a new catcher in San Francisco. Judge had no intention of signing with the Giants. He used the Giants as leverage to get every penny from the Yankees. Yes and no. I think he was seriously considering the Giants. I don't think that was negotiated in bad faith at all. I think he was torn between the two for a long period of time because of the idea of going back home. But ultimately, he wanted to stay with the Yankees. Very true. And he ultimately, I believe, signed for less than what the Giants may have been willing to offer him had he gone back to the Giants and said, hey, the Yankees are willing to do 9 at 360. If you do 10 at 400, I'm there. I don't think he really wanted to do that because I think he ultimately wanted to stay with the Yankees. He was happy with the offer the Yankees gave him, and they worked it out. Giants finished second there. Trade proposal is Peraza and 2 prospects for Dalton Varsho. Is that good? That's a good question. Let's find out. For you guys who are new to the Upside Sports Network, you guys can check us out, or you can check out the baseballtradevalues.com website. They give you a good idea for what trades could be worth anyway. Give you a representative idea of what it might cost for your team to acquire a player. So this would be a trade between the Yankees and the Diamondbacks. Varsho is 74.5 median value. Yankees. Peraza's only at 27, and you're saying 2 prospects in addition to that? You'd need 2 prospects of his caliber. I still think that's a little bit rough. I understand, Robert, but Bart is 26. I mean, we're seeing catchers sign right now for 31. That's what Omar Narvaez signed as. But I think Joey Bart right now is nowhere near his potential, and he could get back there, don't get me wrong. But saying he's going to become a productive major league hitter after after his career that we've seen so far, I think it's a little bit far-fetched. I mean, looking at his numbers, that in the only other game or season that he played regular time was in 2020, in that shortened season anyway. Didn't walk a whole lot that year, but he certainly improved that this year. 233 batting average was a little bit better, but again, his OPS was 609. So again, not a whole lot of promise there, in my opinion. Welcome back, Mark. Saw you liked the Twitter post anyway. Thank you for doing that. Really does help us out. Thank you for that. Not sure I'm ecstatic about Kiermaier for the Jays, but could be fun to watch. I agree. I think they aren't done, though, adding to that outfield. I think there's another move out there for you. At what age do you consider prime years for a player? Prime years, though, that's a little bit evolving for me. I mean, prime years nowadays, I think you're probably looking anywhere between 25, 26 to 31, 32, depending on the player. Sometimes a little bit older, sometimes a little bit younger, but generally in that range. And Bart is technically entering his prime, but so far we haven't seen enough to really prove to us that he's going to jump out of jump forward and be that next impact piece. But Mark, just to talk a little bit about your Jays anyway, I think that they're going to add at least one more bullpen piece and a outfielder at some point. They should be able to get an impact piece out there if they want it. I think Kiermaier is a good option for them, but I don't think they're done. Maybe a trade of Jansen brings in that outfielder for them, or a relief pitcher. Maybe they just strictly want some prospects back for him at this point. They did bring in Chris Bassett, so their rotation looks much better. I haven't seen any news on Hyun-Jin Ryu. I'm wondering if I'm not sure when he's going to be back. Let me pull that up. Maybe you could count on him as a middle of the year boost to your rotation at some point, but you're not going to have him to start the year, it sounds like, because of that Tommy John. Second year is usually better for uh, guys coming back from Tommy John anyway, so maybe his performance will be a little erratic. Um, I don't know. I think Ryu, it's a tough break for Ryu getting that Tommy John. I think he'd be exactly what your rotation needs right now in Toronto. If he was healthy, you have a great starting five as far as your rotation, but maybe if he comes back healthy and they rest him just right and they use him in the right way, maybe he could be your difference making piece after the deadline. What's your opinion regarding all these new changes in baseball? Well, we'll start with the pitch clock. Love it. Can we get it here now? As far as the changes to the base paths, loves that as well. The one rule I'm not sure I like is the rule about throwing over to first base or pickoff moves, limiting them to two. That's going to really make base runners emboldened after that second. What's going to change the game when it comes to stolen bases. The unintended consequences as far as trying to speed up the game there might be negatively impacted on the field as far as stolen bases and those kinds of things. Run scoring might be affected a little bit from that as well. But maybe they address that at some point during the season and realize, hey, this isn't a great idea. Or maybe they just live with it and say, hey, we want more run scoring. Another rule I'd love to see, or at least change I would like to see, is give me some robo-umps. I'm sick and tired of seeing, time and time again an argument about balls and strikes. Can we move on at some point? I mean, technology is fantastic out there. I mean, tennis has gotten it right over the past, 5 or 6 years when they got the tracks down on it where you can see where the ball landed on the court. I mean, baseball should easily be able to develop this technology within the next year. They're going to try all kinds of different versions of it all throughout the minor leagues next year. And at some point, hopefully in 2024, we get robo-umps because I'm tired of seeing a pitch 6 inches outside. Angel Hernandez says, strike one! And then the other manager busts out of the dugout because it's that far off the plate and it's not even close. We saw that in the game against the Philadelphia Phillies. Kyle Schwarber has a great eye at the plate. The pitch was fairly close, I'll give him that, but robo-umps immediately solved that problem right there. Kyle Schwarber says, oh, it was a strike? Okay, moves on to the dugout. What exactly are you going to do? It's right there. You can see the evidence. It was a strike, or it was a ball. That would be a fantastic change for Major League Baseball. Plus, the added benefit now is that instead of seeing your first base umpire or your third base umpire say, I think he swung at it, but I'm not sure. But I'm going to say he went around and call him out anyway. I'm tired of seeing that. Now the home plate umpire can watch for different things. One, he can watch far more closely for balks. I think starting pitchers very rarely come to a rest when they're getting ready to throw the ball to home plate, and so that's one thing I think needs to be cleaned up a little bit. We saw how the change in instant replay made base stealers actually stay on the base a lot more because if you get off the base that far and the glove is on you with the ball in it, you're out. Sure, it's ticky-tack and you might have beaten him by a mile, but it's your responsibility to stay on the base. Period. As far as the home plate umpire managing that balk situation a whole lot better, that would be another benefit to the game. And then as far as the swinging path through the bat or through the zone anyway, they'd be able to focus on those things as well, not have to focus on a call from the first base umpire or the third base umpire who's over 100 feet away from home plate. Those are some changes I could see being added benefits to just instituting robo-umps. And then, of course, just the fluidity of the game. You're not going to have all these, pauses in the game, getting upset because you missed outside and you're upset because the home plate umpire didn't give you the call. Those kinds of things. That goes away. You missed the strike zone, period. You didn't throw the strike. Or, hey, that ball was a strike. You let it go past. You struck out. You ended the inning. Those types of things are going to make the game so much better. Angel Hernandez has to go. Geez, tough to watch. Yes, he is. I'll put it this way. He had a suit at one point against Major League Baseball for, I want to say he was being, racist something or other. I can't remember what it was. But he had some type of lawsuit against Major League Baseball at one point, and I'm not sure if that actually settled yet or not, but I think that's part of the reason why Angel Hernandez is still there, because he had the lawsuit ongoing. If that lawsuit's concluded and they're able to solve those problems, you can just clearly see he's consistently been one of the worst ball strike call throwers, or ball strike percentages in Major League Baseball from umpires. Um, he likes to interject himself. Remember Jerry West? He would find a way to interject himself into a baseball game, get in a manager's face, not throw him out, but just have an argument on the field, just to show he's the boss. And Angel Hernandez has a little bit of that, comes from that same type of a school, and he just needs to go. It's not about you, umpires. Thank you for umpiring the game. I understand it's a thankless job. Really appreciate all the hard work and the thankless hours you put in. But at some point, it's about the play on the field and not about, whether or not a strike was right or wrong or whether or not you believe your authority is respected on the field. It's about what is correct on the field, and that needs to be what happens. The primary benefit of the DH, it will prolong the careers of players. Yes, it will. What do you think, or what do you consider a quality start for pitchers? I think 6 innings is pretty much what the standard is in Major League Baseball. I agree with that. 6 innings, 3 or less earned runs. There are some games where like you give up a 7 spot in like the 4th inning. It doesn't go down as a quality stat or quality start anyway, but if you're able to get through 7 innings, you just saved your bullpen all kinds of work. And Martin Perez did this on countless occasions in the second half of the year when his stuff started to go a little bit as he kind of started to wear down in the heat of the summer, etc. But he still finished the year strong, had a great ERA, was able to get the qualifying offer. But his career certainly changed. In years past, he would not have been able to do that. The maturity of him as a pitcher to be able to get through that 6th or 7th inning, even though he blew the game in the 4th, save the bullpen those innings, just really showed some maturity in those spots. And while it doesn't go down as a quality start, that's something that managers do not forget and show the toughness of your team, the character of your players, that it's not just about their stats. It's not just about, I gave it up, I'm going home, I packed my things up, I'm done. No, you got a job to do. Your team needs you out there to save their bullpen arms for the next game. When they do have a chance to win, when they're not down 7-1 after 4 innings. Those are the types of things that really help build your team going forward. The character in those tough situations. Martin Perez did that in spades for the Rangers last year. In your opinion, who's more valuable, the best pitcher in baseball or the best all-around player? Best all-around player. I mean, they play every day. They have impact on 162 games a year. Starting pitchers only have, 30, 35 starts a year at best. Bullpen arms might play in, 70 games a year. But catchers nowadays are, 90, 95 games a year, maybe 100. But the everyday best all-around player is what has the biggest impact on the game. Shohei Ohtani right now is that guy because he plays both. Just has a serious impact on both sides of the ball. But if you're talking about guys not named Shohei Ohtani, Aaron Judge in the American League is unquestionably that guy. National League, there's a handful of guys who could be that guy as well. Who's the most dominant player I ever saw? Ooh, good question. Offensively, Aaron Judge this year during the regular season on the American League side. Barry Bonds on the National League side when he was going at his height anyway. He was absolutely dominant. If we're eliminating those two guys, Pudge Rodriguez anyway for the Texas Rangers, and then of course the Miami Marlins, Detroit Tigers, etc. Just the way he could play the game both at the plate and then behind the plate, managing the running game, handling a pitching staff. Nobody did it better. I think for me, he is probably. This is tough. He's not necessarily the best catcher in Major League Baseball history, but he ain't far away from it. I'd probably put Pudge in my top 2 or 3 catchers, honestly, all time in Major League Baseball history. That's how impactful Pudge Rodriguez was. He was dominant, and he was a guy I actually got to see play live. So if that answers your question as far as who I got to see live, he is probably the most dominant player I ever got to see. Mookie's best is by WAR. Okay. Just go home. Yankees sign anyone? Or the Yankees did sign Carlos Rodon to a 6-year, $162 million contract. Full no trade clause, no opt-outs in the deal. They solved their rotation issues at least at the top. Ovechkin did not score. He was held scoreless tonight. He did get an assist, but he didn't get a goal. Stars won 2-1. Ottinger was vintage Jake Ottinger tonight. Was back to his playoff form where he played against the Calgary Flames. Second highest amount of saves in a game tonight for Jake Ottinger tonight. In case you guys are wondering, he's the Dallas Stars goaltender. He is going to win a Vezina at some point in his career. I believe he should be a Vezina finalist this year if he plays like that the rest of the way. Might even win the Vezina if he continues to play like that the rest of the way this season. But kind of keep your eyes peeled for that. Followed closely by Judge and Trout's few seasons, I agree. But for me, an MVP is... WAR gives you a really good picture of it, but as far as most dominant, I don't know. I would still say that as far as dominant, would have to impact both sides of the ball for me, and that's why I like Pudge so much. If you're talking about a dominant starting pitcher, Randy Johnson would be up there. Actually did get to see him pitch once. That was special. Imposing on the mound, just the way he's able to throw the ball from that extended height. Turned into a nice second career as well as a photographer from what I understand. But one of the most dominant, scariest pitchers to ever face inner batter's box by pretty much every single one of his peers said so. I would take Randy Johnson over pretty much any pitcher as far as dominance. Now, as far as quality on the mound, Roy Halladay was up there, like you mentioned, Mark. But I think Randy Johnson, is just a little bit better. Just about to cross the 1 hour mark. Got about 20 of y'all in here on a Thursday evening. As I was mentioning earlier, we've been doing a lot of these dailies with you guys. Now with the majority of the top free agents off the board, we're starting to see the off season kind of go more towards the trade market now, and kind of the back end of that free agent market as well. We're going to halt our dailies, and we're going to go ahead and go with a weekly format for that. We'll still give you the breakdown of every single one of the transactions, but we want to be able to bring you a different type of content as well. We're going to give you a lot more in-depth videos, like we put out today on Rodon and on Correa. You'll see a video on Syndergaard like that tomorrow, the Rodon signing, a couple other videos as well. We're going to try to do a little bit more content like that for you guys and focus on that. We will have our weekly update for you guys on what's happening for Major League Baseball's Hot Stove on Monday evenings. So we'll still keep with our weeklies on that to keep you guys updated. We will start to do some more content on Major League on the NBA, the NHL, and football as well. Try to get you some more content. Maybe even do some games, hopefully, by next week. I really want to get back into that we started with at the beginning of this baseball season. And I want to get back into that. Really enjoyed doing that with you guys. And who knows, maybe on Saturday we'll do the Stars versus Carolina Hurricanes game. But there's a lot of interest from not just the people who follow me for baseball reasons anyway, but a lot of interest from everybody else that's wanting to get back into all these, live games and chatting as we watch a game. It's going to have some play-by-play, yes, but we're also going to be talking a lot about other things as well. While we're watching a hockey game, if it's kind of a lull in an intermission period or something, we'll probably break down some other things that are happening around the world of sports. If there's a big signing in baseball or a trade in basketball or, a big injury in the NFL, we'll talk about all those kinds of things. Thank you for subscribing, by the way. Appreciate that. Starscream. Do we have a Transformers fan, I wonder? Happy holidays. Happy holidays to you, Dave. I love me some hockey, too. I am considering going with the family on Saturday to go to see some holiday lights. There's a place about an hour away from where I live that does a really nice downtown Hallmark type thing for Christmas, lights, and festival, and ice skating. And ice skating in Texas, by the way, in a small town. Very rare, so I'm considering doing that. But maybe after I finish that, we can do some live games for you guys. And then on Sunday, I got a little bit of travel, but we'll try to do an evening game for you guys on Sunday evening. And then again, we'll have our live weekly update for you guys on Monday night. Nolan Ryan, very dominant. Yes, I agree. Saw him pitch in the Astrodome. Means 7 no-hitters. What more is there to say? But for me, if I had to go with one player as far as dominant that I actually saw in person, Pudge Rodriguez, Pudge Rodriguez, Pudge Rodriguez. What time on Mondays for the live? Probably be similar to what we've been doing, probably around the 8:30, 9 o'clock hour. I don't get off on Mondays for my day job anyway, till 7, 7:30, sometimes 8, depending how late the day goes. But I'll try to be live on air between 8:30 and 9 for you guys, and then carry it probably a little bit longer since we're going to have a whole week long of information to go over, and try to do the majority of that within that hour, hour and a half, 2 hour mark. And so keep your eyes peeled for that. Mondays between 8:39 is when we'll get started. Sometimes it might be later depending on how late work ends up running, but usually 8:39 is what we'll shoot for. Just checking to see if anything else is happening while we're watching. They're re-airing the Andrew Heaney press conference for the Texas Rangers. Good signing for the Rangers, adding to their starting rotation. Has a career 4.5 ERA, but last year showed some real growth with the LA Dodgers. 3.12 ERA in 72 innings. Maybe he figured something out there. That's why I really like the signing of Noah Syndergaard going to the Dodgers. Really am curious about what they're going to end up doing with the rest of their team, especially considering they want to stay underneath that luxury tax threshold, make sure they can spend as much as they want next offseason to bring in Shohei Ohtani, to be able to re-sign Julio Urias. Cold front is coming to Texas. There was actually some rumors that we might be getting a white Christmas in Texas, of all places. Thought it said I want to say it said 23 was the low on Christmas Eve or Christmas Day for us down here. Really excited about that. That'd be nice to wake up to snow on the ground on Christmas Day.
It's not looking good on the 20.
Just checking to see if anything else is happening. Like this note from Sarah Langs anyway. She says the last time the Yankees had 3 pitchers with a 3.5 ERA or lower, minimum 25 games started each in a season, was 1972. So not even the Yankees of the 90s, the dynasty team, had that type of team. So if they get that level of production out of those 3 guys, the Yankees could really have something this year. But I still think they need to add some depth at the back end of that rotation. Glad the Rangers are signing guys. AL West with the Astros, Mariners, and Rangers will be competitive. Finally! Rangers have been sitting on their hands for far too long, and Chris Young over the last, 13 months has come out swinging. I think the manager they got right this time with Bruce Bochy. Love the pitching coach, Mike Maddox. Best pitching coach the Rangers have ever had in their history of a team. Not close. They do need to make some improvements in that bullpen, and I think they will. There's some guys out there that they could use on the free agent market, but I think they could trade for the closer. I don't think the closer is on this roster right now, and I don't think they're done. I think they're trying to solve their left field position first, as they've been in negotiations for the better part of the week anyway, with teams asking about left field options. There was some rumors about Brian Reynolds. Not sure that'll happen. I think the price is too high for what the Rangers are wanting to give up. Maybe bring in Charlie Blackmon from the Colorado Rockies. That makes a lot of sense for me. Wouldn't have a whole lot of cost. Has 1 year left on his deal as well. Maybe if things work out, you can get him on a 1 or 2 year contract extension. Something like that could work. Haven't heard that one mentioned as much as in recent days anyway. But that's somebody that I've had my eye on for the Rangers for the better part of 5 or 6 years. But his career is certainly winding down. But still, it'd be a nice ad for the Rangers. They've been talking about the guys from the Arizona Diamondbacks. The Cardinals, of course, have a couple outfielders that they could move if they want to. The Brewers have touched on them, how they have 2 left fielders with Yelich and Winker on their roster if they want to make a move there. Love Don Mattingly as a bench coach in Toronto behind our young manager. Yes, I think that is a perfect 1-2 for you guys in Toronto. John Snyder looked up to Don Mattingly, was his favorite player anyway when he was with the New York Yankees. Now he gets to hear advice from Don Mattingly every single time he needs advice. He can look over there and say, hey, what do you think? And Mattingly's got all the experience that you could ever want, and he's certainly going to listen to him because he has that idolization for him as he was growing up as a kid. Mike Maddox was a good ad, I agree. Welcome in, MVP. Welcome back. If you guys are just joining our video, more than welcome to go ahead and rewatch it after this. Really does help us out if you do that. And thank you guys for joining us over the past month or so. It's been a lot of fun adding a whole bunch of subscribers. Finally got the crossed the monetization threshold, getting that started up, and hopefully be able to start doing this full time for you guys sooner rather than later. But once we get this to a solvent point where I can do this, and quit the day job, that's something I'm really looking forward to doing. But we're still a ways away from that. But hopefully this time next year we'll be in somewhere of a position where we can do that. But the world ain't getting cheaper, so we'll see how things go. But thank you guys for joining us tonight. Again, if you're just joining us, we cover the MLB, NBA, NFL, and NHL. Make sure you hit that like button on this video and subscribe. You can also follow us on Twitter at UpsideSN. Will there ever be like a community server? Not entirely sure. I do have ideas as far as branching out this channel a little bit, as far as making like a baseball only part of Upside, an NFL, an NBA, and an NHL. And then from there, having each team have their own page as well. That's a lot of content to put out every single day, but that's quite a ways down the road. Podcast, we've got wanting to get that going with regularity anyway, probably in February. And then as far as our Patreon, we started that up. We haven't posted anything on there, so don't worry about trying to find it yet. But once we do start posting things on there and get a rhythm for what we want to have on there as far as content, we will let you guys know as well. We do have a Facebook page, Upside Sports Network, where we do post our videos. So if you guys don't get notifications from YouTube, I know one of my friends gets the video I posted about Jared Goff. What was it, yesterday? He finally got the notification for it tonight and was like, "Hey, dude, I didn't know you posted this yesterday." I was like, and he's a Detroit Lions fan. He lives in Michigan up there anyway, and was like, if I had known you'd put this out, I would have liked it and watched it yesterday and helped out your numbers. And I was like, well, that's why you got to follow me on Twitter, follow me at Facebook. You can find those out there, but sometimes you get those notifications late. I've noticed with YouTube. Who will start day one for Braves as catcher? Sean Murphy. And will Jacob deGrom start day one for the Rangers? Maybe. I think there's a case to be made for Martin Perez to be that guy, just because he was with the Rangers last year. He's been with the Rangers for the better part of, or for the majority of his career anyway. I think he could be the opening day starter for the Rangers, but there's the opening day starter, and then there's the home game starter. Depending on your team anyway. If your team opens the season at home, then you only get one of those opportunities. But if you open the season on the road, then of course you have your game one starter on the road, whoever that is, Jacob deGrom or Martin Perez, and then you have your first game of the season at home starter. And so sometimes if you open up on the road, it's kind of another extra boon for you, an extra boon for your starting staff to say, hey, I really like both of you. I'm not going to choose between you, so I'm going to have one of you here and one of you here. So it's a good way to solve those type of problems if it's that important to those guys in that rotation. I'm sure they're competitive and want to get it, but that's one way to help solve it if you open up on the road. It's kind of interesting seeing Andrew Heaney in a Rangers uniform. I know nobody wants to talk about this, but the Tyler Skaggs stuff from years ago, I don't want to get myself in trouble with stuff, but you guys know what I'm talking about with him. But Andrew Heaney was one of his closest friends. Texas in Arlington is actually where he passed, and curious to see him make the decision to actually go to Texas. Sounds like I just was wondering if there would ever be any ill feelings about that at some point for Andrew Heaney, as far as a reason for him to not necessarily want to sign with Texas. But apparently not too much of a difference there. Not saying that he thought less of his friend or anything like that. It's just that maybe he's moved on with his life and is in a better place about everything and that kind of a thing, which is a good thing for Andrew Heaney. But I was wondering if that would have had an impact on him signing, and apparently it did not. Can't wait for opening day. Giants. Well, I am curious to see how they're going to do with Carlos Correa. I want to see him be able to continue to put what he was doing in Minnesota in the second half of the year into practice again with the San Francisco Giants. He's going to be asked to do a lot on that team. He's going to be asked to to be a big time leader for that organization, especially with a lot of the young guys that they're going to be playing next year. And if they're able to, if they're able to get off to a hot start, maybe we're talking about them in August and September as a possible wild card team sneaking into the playoffs. But I think that they'll be on the outside looking in by the end of the season. But next season, they should be players for all the top guys out there once again, and maybe they make the right decision and add some pieces around them. But thank you guys for joining us here tonight. We're going to go ahead and call it here. We'll put out some videos for you guys tomorrow. Probably make a video here or two in the evening, and if something happens, we'll of course come back live. But just wanted to thank you guys so much for joining us over the past month or so. For those of you who have been, new subscribers to us, for those of you who have been with us since our beginning, thank you guys so much for making this possible. Really do appreciate it, and thank you guys. Thank you guys for subscribing and liking the videos. Really does help. Do you think 13 years is too much for Correa? No, I think that's a function of the team wanting to lower the AAV, and that's something that I think will be addressed in the next CBA by the league. They don't want to see these type of contracts anymore, I don't think. I think they might put a cap on the length of these type of contracts going forward. But thank you guys for joining us here tonight. If you guys have any more questions, please feel free to send us comments on our videos. Got quite a few comments on our videos today. If you do see, I do try to like or comment or, put a heart out next to those comments or respond to those comments if I can. If I am unable to or, stuff like that, I will try to bring it up during our video. Daniel, you would be the case in point there. Your video about Noah Syndergaard will be coming out tomorrow. So again, Carlos Rodon signs with the New York Yankees, 6 years, $162 million, solving their need for a top end of the rotation starter. They still need to add to that bullpen. They still need to add a back end starter / long reliever, I believe, and a left fielder. But thank you guys for joining us here tonight, and we'll see you guys tomorrow. Tomorrow will be the last of our dailies for Major League Baseball's hot stove season. And then we'll be switching to our weekly format starting next week on Monday between 8:30 and 9 o'clock is when we'll be going live. And we're going to try to get into some more games for you guys. Make sure you watch those videos. We're going to try to get a lot more content, a lot more in-depth conversation about what these signings mean for these teams, and try to bring you guys a lot more quality content. So thank you guys for joining us, and we'll see you guys tomorrow night.